Welcome, everybody, to another spoiler review for July month. Uh, this movie, just by happenstance, happens to fall in line with 4th of July kind of perfectly because it's in the background. But I'll be reviewing Live Free or Die Hard. And I've reviewed the previous three Die Hard films, which is up on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/talkativecarl. Leave a comment below to let me know which Die Hard films were your favorite, from least to worst. Least to greatest. And follow me on links in the description below. YouTube channel, Twitch, Twitter, Patreon, TikTok, all that stuff. And honestly, looking back, I fairly recall people not looking upon favorably to this film. But given over time, because they made 5 of these, and the 5th one is by far the worst of the worst. I couldn't even be bothered to even, because I remember powering through it, but it's like it was like a struggle for me to even like want to finish it. It was that bad. But I enjoyed Live Free or Die Hard. I think they should have ended the franchise with this, because I think it was a nice little ending, fair. But they had to make another one, I guess, because since you did one with the daughter, I guess that somebody needed to make one about the son. And I remember, God, I forgot the actor's name who played his son in the 5th one, but he's a great actor. But man, is like so far removed from what we know of John McClane. It's like people make the argument that they push, because John McClane is supposed to be like the everyman action hero, and by the time they got to this one, which I can see some people's point, they starting to push him into a level of dangerously close to being like some kind of superhero, and not all the way, but just doing certain feats that, given his age at that time, is like, okay, this is BS to an extent. But the 5th one really went too far. Whereas, like, I remember he's going overseas to visit his son, did not realize his son's some kind of like secret agent or some kind of thing. So he's dealing with like international type of stuff. And it's like, well, now you're treating him like James Bond to an extent, like a cop in a James Bond world. And it, not saying you can't pull that off, but the writing, like I said, I haven't seen that movie in a long time, and I really don't care unless you guys want to. Like, you leave a comment below and say like, yo, like, just do the 5th one so you can like have a full completion. If you want to hear my thoughts on the 5th and final installment, I will, check it out and put it on the list. But anyway, I still think like this movie is really good, and the practical effects, the physics is just, I don't think we appreciated it at that time. At least most people didn't appreciate it at that time. It's really good. Anyway, so this movie is directed by Len Wiseman. Of course, stars Bruce Willis as John McClane, Justin Long as Matthew Farrell. And just while we on the subject of Justin Long, I like him as an actor. He's really good. But I think it was around this time, this movie came out in 2007. It was around this time, it just, don't you feel like there's certain actors that Hollywood seems to be thirsty to push to make another A-list? It's like it wasn't doing it, like it wasn't happening organically, where Justin Long has been in quite a few stuff, and he's been great as like supporting character to certain films like Dodgeball. But after that, it seems, well, at least after this, it seems like we see something with this guy. So let's just not like they aggressively was shoving him and everything, but it just seems like they really trying to force him into a lead actor role, and I do not think. Well, this is my assumption. Like I said, he is a great actor, but in terms of a leading man, he has the potential. And I ain't saying like he can't do it. He has the potential, but it just seems kind of forced. It doesn't fit the whole leading man situation like you see with like Bruce Willis. But I don't know. It's like he has the capability. It was the same way as like certain actors who played against type like like Keanu Reeves. It's like he gives like an stellar performance and shows his wider range of acting capabilities. Same way with Jim Carrey, he's proven that he can play a wider range besides just comedy. So Justin Long could have that range. I just haven't seen him like uh show like the maybe I just haven't seen a particular film that show him like doing other ranges, but it's just like it seems like he was Hollywood seems at that time trying to push him into something he's not, and it wasn't organic. Anyway, you got Timothy Oliphant as Thomas Gabriel, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Lucy McLean. Man, she was so young in this. Not like she isn't good looking or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, wow, looking back, I was like, ooh, wow, this is years ago, mind you. Maggie Q as May Lynn. Kevin Smith as Frederick Warlock Claudius. And Cliff Curtis as Miguel Bowman. So anyway, the movie begins with these particular hackers all dying by explosions via their computer trying to deal with some kind of virus, but it was a hack. And they all was taken down one by one within hours of each other. And we noticed there was some other cybersecurity issues going on at the what was it, Department of Defense? Oh no, at the FBI Cybersecurity Division, and Miguel Bowman is the deputy director. Every time I hear like the word deputy director, I can't help but think of Bullock from American Dad for some reason. Deputy director, and it's because Stan Smith. But anyway, so we see Bowman trying to say like we need to get some white hat hackers involved because somebody's messing with our system. And if you don't know, white hat hackers are pretty much like ethical hackers that help people, normally allied governments, try to show them how they somebody can break into that system and what they need to do in order to combat that by pulling up some particular walls or something like that to prevent any breaches of security, to help with defense against allied nations. And that is what Farrell is. And we see John McClane spying on his daughter and stopping this dude she was making out with for, I guess, taking it to a certain level. And I have to point this out here. I think one of the biggest complaints people had with this film is the fact that they stopped making this rated R. They made this PG-13, which is a big mistake because the previous films were rated R films. But I don't know what the particular reason behind shifting this, because I guess I can pretty much guess as to why, because they're trying to play to a wider audience around the globe, and there's, I guess, certain they need as many people to come see this film, including children, so they can't let too many things fly like they did in the previous three films, which is kind of ludicrous, honestly. Like, kids can't handle gratuitous violence in action films. It was really dumb. Not saying like you just freely show kids gratuitous violence, but they got parents. They can choose to not let them see certain things. But I'm pretty sure they can handle some action movie violence. Not like maybe horror movie violence, but action movie violence is a whole different ball of wax. There is a difference. So apparently she, the Lucy goes by Gennaro as her last name instead of McClane, because I guess it never, John and his wife never got back together after the situation with the third film, where they pretty much broken up and they kind of finalized the divorce, which sucks. Because honestly, they seem, kind of right for each other. Well, not right for each other, but they did clearly in the first film had their issues, and they seemed on like a good path in the second one. But by the third one, things fell through, and it's never fully explained as to why. Maybe because John was, I don't want to say being like a boomer or anything like that, but just like he is a hard-boiled cop. He has, a duty. It's typical in movies like this where, he's working and job takes him away. He's not spending more time with the family. Not, I guess, being emotionally available or whatever the case may be. He's always a wide range of things. But he's a good man and a good cop, and I guess if I remember correctly from the first film, he wasn't very like attentive and just, like I said, emotionally available, whatever like the case may be. But it's just like there's problems on both ends of the things. That marriage probably wasn't gonna last, but it's just a crying shame. But the fact that it eked down to the children, because I fairly remember in the fifth one, the son has his issues with his father too, and we see from this one, it gotten so bad with the daughter where she actually had her, go by her mother's last name instead of her father's last name, which quickly changes up when things get serious, halfway through the film. But I just wanted to point out, I think it's probably the fault of the mom, because typically when folks get into like a divorce, there's always bitterness going on, and it doesn't help if you're talking trash about the other parent in front of the kids, where they pick up some bad habits, because now the daughters haven't, well, I want to say it's on the mom, but it's just the fact that it has to be some level component to that, because the father probably did as much as he could, and he's doing what he can for his kids, maybe because it just wasn't spending enough time with them. That might be the major case, but there's no level of understanding of the situation on the father's end. It's not like he's out there at the bars getting drunk off his bud, or hitting the clubs, or hitting on other women behind his wife's back, or any of that sort. He is like the blue collar worker type of dude, and it's like It's not like he was doing anything inherently wrong, but that kind of thing just like I just kind of wish there was a little bit more understanding. She just outright is annoyed with him, that kind of thing. This is what I'm picking up on. I don't think that's kind of fair. But as she goes up to her apartment, not even sure if she's like in college or just because as a kid when I first watched this, I just assumed she was in college or something. But she might just been in her apartment. She, I mean, he ends up getting a call. Like John ends up getting a call from his boss about picking up this kid. Got a call from the FBI needing like a seasoned detective to come pick up this kid for a particular task that the FBI needs help on. And just so happens, Farrell's one of the other hackers that's on the list to be assassinated, and they try to cover their tracks by. I don't even know how this even happened. Like, given he's a hacker and probably very knowledgeable about tech, he probably would have, at some point checked his hard drive or systems for C4. Don't even know how they even got inside in order to plant that kind of stuff, but whatever. Right before he hits delete, John McClane comes knocking on the door saying like, I'm a cop. I need you, to come with me. But then assassins try to shoot up the apartment. And John is doing everything he can to protect this kid. And this is like a whole brand new set of villains that John has to contend with, which is always very interesting because in each movie he's dealing with a particular type of terrorist. And this one is cyber terrorism. And not only that, it's bad guys who do a lot of parkour and knows a fair amount of martial arts, which John is more of a brawler. He is, which is fun. He's struggling to deal with these type of people, but that adds to the fun. Where John is, like I said, the everyman. He doesn't know proper hand-to-hand combat. He knows like a bit of probably boxing at the most, or whatever was the typical training for police officers. But he's not particularly adept at proper hand-to-hand combat with true martial artists. And the parkour, which is fun to see, like these guys like hopping all over the place, slipping through certain areas is crazy. And the practical effects is amazing. Is around time where like very little CGI is being used, even though that was really on the rise around the I say well, it's always been on the rise, but I think people were really wasn't really using it as a crutch as they are in the past handful of years. So there's some fairly amount of respect involved of using practical effects. Anyway, and being on set, not in like a sound stage or excessive use of blue screen or green screen. Anyway, so this is like, something that, because John is an action hero of the 80s. So now he's dealing with a mid-2000 type of villain with, tech. Because like earlier he mentioned how like his boss knows exactly where he is. They, years ago, low-jacked a lot of police vehicles so that way they can easily find them. And this is kind of like a shock to John. It's like, how you not know they did that to your car at some point? But anyway, this is something that John is also contending with the fact that he's in like a digital age now where everything is almost online. And you looking back on that, it's like, man, there's a lot of stuff. Even though they're using like Palm Pilots and PDAs and stuff, that's just a precursor to what we have now, where we're so in, you know, like technology is so ingrained into us, where everybody's glued to their phones for the most part. But back then, it wasn't so glued to our phones back then, but that was, like I said, like a precursor to what we're going to do now. And we didn't see, I mean, we had a guess at what it was going to lead to. We didn't know how problematic it was going to be down the line. I won't say problematic. There's good stuff and there's bad stuff, but it's just like we didn't probably got a handle on making sure we aren't so tied down to our phones the way we are now. Where, let's say I'm a millennial, so I am in the lucky generation where I've experienced time before technology was really like inundated in society, getting into, so I can fairly, my generation fairly adapted into the new tech age. But I'm I'm usually slow at the uptake on new stuff because I am not too tech savvy like that. I can learn. I only fairly recently started using TikTok, which I was, avoiding using because I don't want to use too much crap. I want to use stuff that like gets me by. But it's just like you gotta download every little thing for every little thing. Some might help, but some seems like unnecessary. So you're looking at this, you see John, I think we're John now. At least my generation is almost like John McClane now, where it's like you hear all this techno babble, and it's like this day and age, and I hear some Gen Z kid talking about certain things or using certain phrases. I'm looking at them like they speaking Greek mixed with Japanese. I don't get the new lingo kind of situation. Not like I said I can't learn, but it does come across as like gobbledygook. And it's like new phrases comes up every other week, and it's kind of dumb. Anyway, John and Pharaoh narrowly escape while the bad guys are setting up this fire sale situation, which is 3 tiers of taking down the infrastructure. And they meet up with Bowman, and they're trying to get an escort to get the kid to safety because they want to take him out. We'll find out in a second as to why, but I want to talk about this moment where Bowman gets in this kid's face, and it seems like, because Justin Long plays like a dweebish, nerdy guy very well, and he's obviously not, confrontational. But even till today, from the time I first saw this film as a kid, it always bugged me where this guy, this grown man, gets in this other, fairly grown man in his face. And it's like I don't care if you are FBI or whatever like that. It's like I look him dead in the eye like, dude, get out of my fucking face before like I sock you in the fucking mouth. Because that is just like, that always bugged me. And it's like it's obviously an intimidation factor or whatever. I don't know, but it just seems like total disrespect. That just always bugged me. I don't know why. That always, every time I think about this movie, that part always is like like pinned over to the side every time this movie comes up, and that particular scene always gets to me. I don't know why I always get hung up on certain things like that. Maybe you guys got movies that y'all seen, and there's a particular scene that is not bad scene, but it's a certain scene that for some reason on an emotional level really bothers you, and you just every time that movie comes up, that little particular part pops into your brain, and it just draws up these feelings of annoyance. That is just like, I don't know. That is always a thing. It's like didn't sit well. It's maybe because like I feel like I wanted to help that kid because like because nobody else is bothered. John is not saying anything. Like nobody's gonna say anything about this dude's getting in his grill like that. It's like, dude, back the fuck up. I don't know. It's like a protective thing in me or something. I don't know, because maybe because I hate bullies, and that's why. Because I can see myself in Farrell, because I remember being that where it's like somebody's getting in your face and like it seems like nobody about to say nothing, or very what's the word, apoplectic or something, like just don't want to jump in when they see something like clearly like wrong going on, whatever. Anyway, they the bad guys send these a helicopter with a couple of goons on, while Mai is pretending to be dispatched to reroute the couple of FBI agents' cars and a couple of other police officers into a particular area, because these guys are like hacking into a lot of systems, messing with traffic lights, causing accidents, and because Farrell recognizes the voice because she was on the she was the one that recruited him and a bunch of other hackers, pretending to be some government people that need white hats to test this their algorithm, so that way nobody can hack into their stuff while they're trying to do their dirt later on. And they trying to make sure they the bad guys are trying to make sure that they cover their tracks, no loose ends, so they getting rid of these guys. And of course Farrell points out, like, I recognize that voice. So McClane tricks May into thinking like, pulling in like pulling a particular police code out of thin air, and it's like, man, dispatch, that's crazy about that 587 that happened earlier. Oh yes, that was very crazy. And I was like, oh, so naked streakers were like a big problem, huh, down there? All right, lady, like, enough of the games. Put your boss on. It's like, I like this dynamic between, because John McClane always got to be partnered up with somebody in each of the film. And the first one is Carl Winslow in the first Die Hard. The second one, same guy, but you also get like a couple of air traffic control people involved. And the third one is Sam Jackson. Here is now is Justin Long. And each one offers a particular skill set in order to help facilitate him saving the day, offer like pretty good backup. Justin Long, even though they got two different I don't want to say ideologies, but the way they see the world, and John's very old school with certain things, but not hip on like new technology, while Farrell, who's not very athletic and confrontational, but he's very smart. And it's not like, stereotypical smart, you know, but it's like smart of the mid 2000 age, where he, uh, you know, is competent. Whereas even like when uh, they was trying to again use the FBI car, or at least a car, just to get it moving, try to break into a car, and he convinces the dispatch woman, different person, into like, oh, my dad, he's having a heart attack. I don't know if you had a father, by like, is your father alive, but mine is, and like, I like, he's holding my arms, he's dying, and it's like, please, Dolores, this dispatcher's name, can you help me out? And then she convinces he convinces her to like automatically turn on the car, so that way he can use it, because they didn't have the keys, and doesn't want to rewire it, but for some reason, because it would probably notify the bad guys or some kind of thing, even to the point of about like, certain phones can't be used because they don't want to be traced by the bad guys. So they gotta use backdoor systems, which he figures out, like, can't use this. We gotta rewire certain things or go low jack in order to bypass and communicate, because that's pretty much how they're probably communicating during this, blackouts and all this other stuff going on. So their dynamic is like very good, even to the point where, like, even though John's getting annoyed by it, we hear Farrell talking about how, like, the news media is like a complete scam, where they trying to scare you every day. They're not honest. And looking back now, and it's like, he really is right on the money. I mean, honestly, you look back and you watch this movie again, and look how like technology works, and how he describes about news media and everything like that. They was really right on the money. It's like, it's kind of crazy. So like, they got two different skill sets, and they pairing well, and this dynamic is very good. And I argue it's probably like, even though Sam Jackson and Carl Winslow are the most iconic friends and partners of John McClane, I think Farrell is better in terms of usefulness, because Sam Jackson is equally not physically capable as someone like John. He wasn't as smart. He figures out certain riddles with John, but but it kind of took time. But he's helping, because he used to be like a taxi driver, so it helps John to maneuver around certain areas in New York while trying to find the next location for the riddle and things like that. Carl Winslow was a cop who kept like certain people outside of the Nakatomi Plaza, because he needed like a friendly outside, and nobody seemed to be on his side, while he's doing everything he can to save everybody in this plaza. But Carl Winslow, I know it's not his real name, but we're gonna look at him as Carl Winslow, is trying to give him the moral support that he needs to keep going, as well as backing him up, on the outside against media and other cops. And of course, he wasn't. The guy was overweight. Let's not, fool around with that knowledge. Justin Long's character seems like, the most useful partner. I ain't counting the fifth one where he partners up with his son, who's pretty much like a, James Bond, you know, bad, bad boy action star kind of thing. I don't even want to count that because that's his kid. That's not like a out of nowhere, uh, person that he has to partner up with out of the, out of the blue kind of situation. So I can't even count that. So yeah, I think Farrell is probably like the most useful partner John McClane has out of the entire film franchise, in my opinion. Anyway, so they end up going to these particular locations to try to, at the very least, slow this guy down. They end up fending off like certain bad guys, and of course John McClane doing his John McClane thing, fighting everybody off, shooting. Oh, they traveling through this tunnel system. After they after the couple of FBI agents get shot down by the bad guy in the helicopter, they drive into this tunnel where, like, it's my favorite part of this film, where John is dodging all these cars. And of course, idiot Farrell is hopping out of the car, but also just as idiotic that as soon as like the tunnel where the bad guy is rerouting all these cars into this one location, it's shutting off all the lights. As soon as the lights get shut off, that should have been a lot of drivers' indication to stop. Instead, it seems like they almost speeding up or not cluing in to their surroundings. So you get all these, cool action sequence where John is pretty much touching all these cars and helping Farrell. He takes one of his vehicle that he was driving and sending it, colliding into the helicopter. And I love Farrell's, reaction. Like, I can't believe you just you shut down a helicopter with a car. And it's like, this is another day of the beach for John. And I loved, like, Farrell's reactions, like, cause he's freaking out and the adrenaline is high, but it's like, like, why aren't you scared? Like what? Like, why you seem like you just like, so calm about all this stuff? It's just like he's like, of course we just like, yeah, this is John. This is totally, because I like where people's, other people's reaction, because the normies' reaction when hanging with John. It's like, this is wild, and why are you so doggone calm? Because like, you've been through this. This is really fun. So they end up going to thanks to Farrell, when he comes to realize that these guys are planning a massive cyber attack. He tells John, like, okay, if I was them, my next step will be dealing with like the Eastern Seaboard, because there's 3 different like gas lines or certain hubs from the western, central, and eastern locations of the country. And so since they're in the eastern part, they go there to this particular hub, and they encounter May, who is this like, super badass martial artist. And I love like it's not a tracking shot because it's edits obviously, but just like, it's almost I don't know where they use stuntmen in certain scenes and when they were actually the actors involved, because it just seems like everybody's doing their action scenes themselves. But maybe more keen-eyed people can point out where's like a stuntman and which one's not. But I'm pretty sure there got to be a fair amount of stuntmen, especially for Bruce Willis, given how old he was at that time. But it's all cool scenes. And literally, this dude drove one of the cars because after May kicks him out the side of the building, he takes one of the cars and drives along the little driveway into the building parking lot and drives and somehow gets into the room. Or at least, well, he obviously collided into the room with the car, and she just stands there. Didn't bother to. She stands there to try to shoot him, but didn't bother to like jump out the freaking way, because that would be your first instinct. But John rams right into us, and right into this like elevator shaft, and that's where these two fight as the car is about to fall. And Farrell has a fair amount of action scenes himself where he stops another guy from shooting at John, hits him with like a pipe, and he just comes falling down. I love the way the camera just follows him as he falls down the elevator shaft. John grabs on some wires as the car falls down, and May seems like a badass chick, just doesn't even bother screaming. She just looks at like intently, like ugh, and falls to her death. And that's where like you get these awesome moments where John, because John always got to talk to the bad guys over like some kind of line. It's always a thing. Over some like a walkie-talkie or a phone line or something like that is always a thing in these films, which has always seemed to be fun. You never notice that, but it's just like that's got to be a thing where it's like he has to antagonize the bad guys, cracking jokes and everything like that. And because we turn as they're talking, they pretty much slow down the operation on their neck of the woods, which infuriates the bad guy. And that's where John and Farrell sends the picture they screen grabbed from the bad guy they're looking at to Bowman. And it turns out this guy's name's Thomas Gabriel, who used to work with Bowman years ago about certain defenses that could easily be hacked, but he wasn't taken seriously. He tries to prove a point by breaking into a meeting and grabbing his laptop and showing everybody him breaking into their systems right in front of everybody, and was disgraced, froze his assets and all this other stuff, which I'm not sure how long ago this was, but Bowman should have like, okay, who has the capability of pulling off this cyber attack? Since it's a government attack, let's see if anybody that we know in the past couple of years that has the capability of doing something on this massive scale. You would think he would have been, let's say, if it was a couple of years ago, and max 3 maybe. He should have probably been on this freaking list, and because we find out later he kind of fell off the grid. That shouldn't have been somebody that you should have been looking at or looking for. Anyway, Thomas orders his hackers to send all the gas main lines to John and Farrell's location, and causes massive explosion that they managed to escape from. And the lights are starting going out on the eastern seaboard, so they really like amping up their move. So they end up need to find where Gabriel is. So they end up going to Warlock's house, this other hacker that Farrell knows, and it's Kevin Smith, who looks like he lived with his mom. And so uh they get him to search where this guy is. And now a pissed off Gabriel kidnaps the daughter in order to, have like a bargaining chip against McClane. And it would have been, because I want to say it would have been fun if Gabriel looked him up. He did look him up and froze his, erased his 401k and all this other stuff. But it would have been awesome if Gabriel also found the information about the Nakatomi Plaza situation and the airline situation and the, thing in New York. And he sees all this stuff and like, wow, you are something special, Mr. McClane. And it's that kind of thing. It's like, I wanted to see something like that happen because we as an audience know his feats, but we want this bad guy to know, this hacker, to know who he's actually dealing with. Like a John Wick situation where it's like, his name is John Wick. He used to work with us, but we gave him a possible task, and the bodies he buried that day laid the groundwork of who we are right now. And you just killed his freaking dog. I really wish they had that kind of situation there with John McClane, where it's like, oh shit, this is John McClane, this glorified freaking hero. That I'm tangling with. I should not be taking this guy lightly. I should, probably send everything I have to deal with this particular guy, because I do not want him chasing after me, because clearly he's persistent. He's known to take down terrorists, so like I better deal with this guy kind of situation. And I love the action. I love the portrayal that the actress Winstead, the way she you buy her as John's kid. The way she, her gruff type of attitude, her swearing, her she's knowledgeable about like checking for her ID. Not too well. I would say not too good, because she gets fooled by one of Gabriel's men with a clearly fake ID. But being hackers, like I'm pretty sure they can fake a pretty good ID to fool anybody. But anyway, she fights back. She give crude attitude. Also, it's like, yeah, you buy this is John McClane's kid. So they find out this guy is in Woodlawn. They try to go there and stop the mechanism, at least the machinations going on there. John fights off this parkour dude and kills him. Well, Farrell gets kidnapped and held hostage by Gabriel's men. Now him and Lucy is held hostage by Gabriel. And Gabriel's trying to force Farrell to hack into the system in order to gain all the financial information from this locale that he himself helped create after the situation of from 9/11, trying to protect the country's finances. And he want to take down, either to take the money, which is clearly the case, but as other agents mentioned, that he can also just erase it altogether and send us back to the Stone Age, which is equally as possible. John after taking down a fighter jet that was somehow the pilot was somehow fooled by Gabriel into thinking, because they treated it like it was dispatch, where the pilot, given he should have been in the military, would have been looking for an officer giving him those orders and not a dispatcher. Those are two clearly different things. But this is where the whole superhero thing comes into play, where John takes one of the mobile labs that Gabriel and his team were using and try to chase after Gabriel and their men to save his daughter and Pharaoh. The fighter jet, the pilot, is sending rockets at the on the freeway, and it's like no military person in the country would fire on a populated area like that. And that should have been like a clue something wrong. Maybe because they think it was like it's filled with anthrax or some kind of bioweapon or something like that. But there should have been other protocols to deal with something like that. They wouldn't just freely fire a missile on a freeway where there's other cars. But like I said, this is where some superhero stuff comes into play. The truck gets totaled, but John manages to climb on top of the fighter jet as it's coming crashing down. The pilot ejects, and John McClane escapes the crash in the nick of time. But it's like, I don't know. At the very least, it should have been like some kind of fragmentation from the explosion, something like that. But they also, coincidentally, the bad guys go to this hangar that's very nearby, and it's like, what a coincidence. But then he goes there, he shoots down a hacker and a couple other bad guys, but the last bad guy, the last foot soldier, shoots and wounds John McClane. And of course, Gabriel wounds Pharaoh in the leg. Gabriel has John in his arms and putting a gun barrel into his wound in the shoulder. And of course, you get like the iconic line, "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker!" And he shoves the barrel into his wound and fires it to hit Gabriel in the chest, killing him. And Pharaoh manages to get one of the guns to shoot at the last bad guy, killing him, which he should have never. I'm not sure how he's able to use that gun. He's never obviously used a gun before, but we excuse it. It's the last part of the film. And the bad guy is ultimately taken down right as the FBI just now showing up. Typical movie stuff. So they stopped Gabriel, and then you see the last bits where Kelly, because they had their little moment while being held hostage. Pharaoh's obviously smitten with Lucy, and Lucy then, shows some level of interest about him, which annoys the dad. And that's where the movie ends. And one thing that kind of stuck out to me when I did see the fifth Die Hard film for the first time years ago, they didn't make any kind of mention, because clearly these two obviously going to get together, and it would have been nice to hear like, oh, she got married to this guy, because clearly these two really like each other. And it seems like a cool dynamic where it's like she, like, her like tough exterior kind of bounces out his nerdy exterior, and they, I don't know, there's like a thing going on with there. It's like, yeah, I kind of buy this. I wouldn't have bought it if they just didn't add that part in the film where these two was like you know, having like a conversation with each other, uh where they where it's just like it seems like the chemistry was there. Without all that stuff, them obviously just all of a sudden asking about each other seems like very forced. But irregardless, like I said, I kind of like that kind of dynamic. And that was Live Free or Die Hard. Like I said, very interesting film, especially dealing with the new type of enemy for John that seems so out of his wheelhouse that he still managed to pull out a win against this particular bad guys that he has not out of his depth, but managed to pull out a win. That is very interesting, and that's why I give this movie like a solid B plus. This is like, you know, obviously not as good as like the first one or the third one. It's definitely better than the second one. But like I said, the first four movies are great. Die Hard. It would have been like a perfect finish of a good 4-part Die Hard franchise. But some people might argue that they didn't care for this movie, but I think some might have turned around years later. But the fifth one is like careening off the cliff at that point, and it's like should have left it at 4. It's one of those moments where it's like you got like a solid ending. You kind of pushed it too far while having John overseas dealing with, well, they all were terrorists, but it just seems like the fifth one seems gone too far. Anyway, next week, the next movie for the 4th of July theme month, I will be dealing with the Universal Soldiers film. Well, at least the first two, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. So it'll be 2 in 1 next week, because I've been wanting to talk about the Universal Soldier films ever since I started the channel, but now I'm getting around to it. And then I'm gonna wrap up the month with it's gonna be a fun one with the last month, with the last Thursday of this month. It's gonna be a fun one, which I haven't seen in years, but only that is a surprise. But then we'll get back to regular film reviews, because the next time I'll do like a theme month will be October, starting back up with like Halloween stuff. Anyway, I will see you guys probably later on, as I probably, well, don't hold me to that. I'm gonna see if like how I feel, because I still need to grab something to eat. But I want to get back to some Borderlands. But we'll see. Well, I got a half day at work tomorrow. I can, probably wait until tomorrow, because I'm can play more of Overwatch and get back to some Borderlands, and because I have like a more longer time. Anyway, look forward to my next comic book review. It's gonna be a She-Hulk comic, but it's gonna be a very interesting She-Hulk comic. But I'm gonna leave that as a surprise. But you'll be familiar with it once I bring it up. But whenever I'm done with it, that's when it's gonna come out. Then right now I'm currently going through Batman Beyond season 1. When I'm done with that, I'm going to put out my thoughts on the first season. Then, oh God, yeah. So far, that's like pretty much like the reviews I got. I'm currently gearing up for. But anyway, take care, everybody, and I'll see you all soon. Have a pleasant weekend. Take care.